Hey, Leslie.
Hello, thanks Madeline for having me on.
Thanks for coming back. I'm glad we get to talk again. And this time, I kind of want to talk to you about what it is that you do with Midwifery Business Consultation, because as we kind of touched on in our last video, I, really want to help midwives overcome burnout and figure out how to have successful, sustainable midwifery practices. And I help them in one way, but I don't have the detailed knowledge and experience that you have with as much business business structure, taxes, insurance, all of that kind of stuff is, there's so much to it. And so I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to maybe talk to some of my audience about that stuff and just give them kind of a basic overview of what they need to be thinking about as far as the business side of things when we're talking about sustainability. Yeah. So this week and last week, I kind of put out a call for some questions from people in my audience. And if it's good with you, then I'm just going to maybe run through those and see if you can answer some basic.
What I'd love to do is just a little introduction to myself. Do you mind if I do that, Madeline? Just so then people know where my background is, and then they can, if they've never been to Midwifery Business Consultation, it's kind of nice to know who this person is talking.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Tell me who you are.
No, it's around. You and I know each other well. So yeah, hopefully people have seen the videos a few times. You and I interviewed about a month ago. So yes, I'm Leslie Cornwell. I've been a certified nurse midwife for 7 years. I've been in healthcare for about 15 years. I ran my own private home birth center practice. I've worked for quite a few states in the hospital, birth center, home setting. So I really tried hard over my healthcare midwifery career to see all different places. I worked in Alaska, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Massachusetts. So I really like having a little bit of everything because it makes you a better midwife. But when I had my private practice, I realized how much I didn't know about business and the financial side of being a successful private. Being employed is one thing, like you can just be part of the structure, you do your thing. But when you run your own private practice, there's just so much you aren't taught as a midwife. Part of our schooling, it's training after the fact. And it's usually training by mistakes, and it's training by burnout. It's training by the hard way. So I took a break 3 years ago, and I just said, I'm going to learn as much as I can about business, finances, economics, anything I can to help out other midwives because I went to that direction of, I have a great mission and an awesome business plan, but the volume had to keep going up and up as the overhead kept going up, and you lose why you create a midwifery practice. And there's only so many hours in a week. And you still want to be a mom and a person outside of being a midwife. So I did a ton of classes. I probably had thousands and thousands of hours of every aspect of a business entity, tax, legal, malpractice insurance, negotiating insurance contracts, so much that's so important to have a good, strong foundation. So that's why I created Midwifery Business Consultation. I'm excited to say internationally, I help so many midwives start their own businesses, any aspect of midwifery. You can get so creative to support women. So long story short, so that's my background, and I've been very excited in what I've been doing and helping other midwives create their own dreams of a successful business.
Yeah, that's great. And you also have experience in hospital settings and home birth settings and birth center settings too,
yes,
right?
All three, yes. Mm-hmm.
So most of my audience really is probably home birth midwives more than hospital birth midwives. And so when we're talking about private practices in these questions, that's probably where you should focus your attention more for this video specifically. But I'll just start, I guess, with one type of question that I get on a regular basis. I mean, I probably get a couple of emails like this a month where someone will say something like, I'm starting a group practice and I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. What type of business? Tax stuff, legal stuff. People will ask the just like you said, we don't get a lot of education. So the about business and taxes and legal side of things. And so just the overwhelm comes from the fact that their question is this broad. So can you give some kind of an idea of just kind of a basic where to start for people or where to go for information?
Yeah, I think I stress to people, it's a whole nother degree. It's a whole nother specialty. You're learning entrepreneurship. Like we aren't taught it in school. We're not taught unless you have a fortunate mentor growing up or some sort of a warm market business side, you don't get that experience. So it's definitely a learning curve. Midwives are just as good at being business owners as any other occupation. So part of it is just getting exposed, learning. Knowledge is power. If you have a main job or you're finishing school right now, I know it's overwhelming. You feel like I've already got enough to learn about being a midwife, let alone learning to be a business owner. But you read books, you do online courses. YouTube has phenomenal resources for just getting exposed to entrepreneurial mindset. I like audiobooks because I can do it driving. I like to be very productive with my time. I'm not a big book reader just because it's sitting. But part of Midwifery Business Consultation isn't just helping businesses, it's getting you resources easy, accessible. So we have a YouTube channel, there's blogs from the last couple of years, I put out a weekly post, there's videos, there's very specific business side of midwifery. So if you want to skip like doing more generalized, you're like, I want to learn the business of midwifery, I've just created specific courses for that. There's a home birth course that's the business side of midwifery, there's a birth center course, there's a billing and coding course. So there's courses very specific to the business side of midwifery, and they're 8 hours long. So if you want something a little more condensed and focused, that's the direction I suggest.
Okay, and you have just some resource lists on your website too, if people wanted to go there and look at some.
Yeah, things that I found over the years, like, yeah, after reading hundreds and hundreds of books, I appreciate you bringing that up, some good referral systems, some good medical record systems to use, things that you don't have to rework the wheel of learning. What supply company should I go to? What organization has these resources? Like I have you linked, and I have many other great affiliated organizations. So yeah, that's a great tab to go to too.
And it's midwiferybusinessconsultation.com?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, good. And then the next one is business structure. That's probably the second most common question that I get is, and most people ask, what's better to do an LLC or a sole proprietorship? And I know there's even other options than that, but maybe you could just go through those two and give maybe some pros and cons, and also maybe talk about if you're going to be in a solo practice as a home birth midwife or in a group practice as a home birth midwife, if either of those would have pros and cons that are different based on how many midwives you're going to have working.
Yep, that's a great question. So the ones I more focus on with a business organization for midwives has to do with sole proprietorship, limited liability companies, or a S corporation. It's not as common known, but I'll talk about why an S corporation is so powerful in a little bit. The ones I get more of the question is a sole proprietor versus LLC, because that's what people more are aware of.
Right, that's what I've heard of.
Yeah. I don't think there's so much of a difference between if you're doing a private practice versus a group practice. It's the level of taxation and protection you're getting from your business. So it has to do with your business plan. I don't encourage a sole proprietor. I can't even think of a situation that would be beneficial to be a sole proprietor unless you're super tight on money to get started, but make it like a 3-month or a 6-month goal plan as you're making money. Because every state is different how much it costs. So the state I'm in is relatively cheap to start an LLC. I know some states are really expensive. So the only time I could think of saying to start a sole proprietor is it's temporary and you're super tight on money. I can't think of any benefits as your business or protection unless you can think of something. So.
No, I can't. I was going to ask if you could go into maybe the reason why a sole proprietorship is not a good choice.
Yep. So a sole proprietorship is literally you're using your own tax form and you're starting a business under your own name. You can always do on a state and county level a doing business as whatever you want to do to the public, but you're literally doing business as you. So there's no protection veil. So if you have a bad outcome, nobody's going to give you malpractice insurance starting a sole proprietorship. I can tell you that right now, that I'm aware of. And that you aren't getting any tax benefits. You're paying for items, your supplies, your computer, everything with your hard-earned money after taxes. Our goal of starting a business in this wealth creation is pre-taxed money. You want to only pay taxes for after expenses. You don't want to work your amazing hard job, get 35% taken from the government, and then use that to buy your supplies. It's working really hard. I want people to work smart. So I can't find any benefits to starting out a sole proprietor. I really discourage it wholeheartedly for liability and tax purposes. A limited liability company is what most people start, whether it's a solo practice, or a multi-group. It has nothing to do with the size and revenue. That's where I was hinting at the S corporation. A limited liability company tends to be cheaper. You can do it under your own tax forms. It's simpler with an accountant. But the big thing I'd like to stress and get people creative, you can Google search the Kohler matrix is what it's called. But when you start making more than $30,000, $40,000 a year, once you get going, you start making money. They're switching from an LLC to an S corporation will give you the advantages. It's very easy to do with an accountant and doing it the proper way. You save a ton of money in taxes. You can hybrid between a salary and a dividend, because now you have stocks with your business. It's the exact same business on the forefront. It's just saving you money on taxes. So if somebody wants to talk to me in details about it, I'm more than happy to switch from an LLC to an S corporation, and why you'd want to do that. Because that was part of why I did all these courses. I was like, how do the rich do it? How do the rich start these businesses and they work smarter, not harder? And those are the games I learned. There's laws out there that I'm just like, seriously, if I would have just done this, I probably would have saved like $100,000 in my business the last 4 years if I'd have known what I know now. And that's crazy. It's just how many more women we could serve and how much better we could take care of ourselves if we knew these silly tax games.
Yeah, which is exactly the whole point of both of our missions, is to get more women getting midwifery care. And if you can do the groundwork, like you said, read the books, listen to the audiobooks, look at the resources on YouTube, do this stuff on the front end, so that you can keep your business going on long term.
Yeah. And I've even found it helpful doing the monthly consultations because I can help focus people. If you're reading a bunch of stuff, I can give you a narrowed down, here's your customizations, here's your unique specific things. I can give generalized education all day long, but spending an hour with me once a month has really accelerated people's cost of making mistakes, of starting their practices. There's so many benefits to just picking the brain of an expert.
Totally. Yeah. And work smarter, not harder is the thing. And that's sort of what's some of the stuff I'm about, delegating. Like not all of us are business experts, and most of us really aren't. And so if you can find someone who is, it will save you a lot of time to then be able to focus on the things that you are really good at.
Yeah. We didn't go into midwifery to know the taxes and legals for sure.
Right. Okay, and then the next question, another very vague one, but people, when they're trying to think about moving from a solo practice to a group practice, because of course that's, again, what my audience is really about, sharing the load, sharing the load as far as midwives are concerned, but, also sharing the load as far as, hiring someone like you to help them. But I think people get really sort of caught up in how are we going to share the finances? Like, how is each midwife going to get paid? If I am a solo practice midwife, I'm the one who makes all the money. And so I think it's scary for people to think about bringing somebody else on. So could you maybe talk about a few different pay structure options for when people start a group practice?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to think of it. We'll start at the top. You have the decision to say, I'm the sole owner and I'm going to hire people, whether they're employees, independent contractors, or you can say, I want a business partner. There's very different structures to that. There's pros and cons to each. The pros to having a business partner is you guys are both all in. Whether the business makes money or fails, they can't say, well, I want to go somewhere else next week. Like, you're both really committed to this practice. The downside is if you wanted to structure it and you had, like, say you wanted a big mission and dream, but your business partner doesn't want it, you're going to have differences of opinions. If you are hiring people, you have the final say in everything. If you have business partners, you guys have to morph, and some people's personalities can fit that and some people's can't. So traditionally I see it because they want to build a relationship. They'll say, okay, in 2 years, let's talk about a business partnership. Like, there's to know that you're going to invest, learn each other, and I'm going to be the one hiring you, whether an independent contractor or an employee. There's pros and cons to both directions. An employee is somebody that actively works for you. You can tell them their hours you're working, you're splitting the taxes that you're paying, Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, workman's comp, those things. And you can choose to give them benefits or not give them benefits. So like retirement, salary, insurance, you can decide. If you hire an independent contractor, which I really like that model, if you're just testing the water and you're smaller and you just don't quite know how it's going to be, you're not held to all the overhead taxes. They are. They're an independent contractor. You have to structure your agreement very specifically to protect yourself. But an independent contractor, I used it all the time for my birth assistants, and I started shifting over my practices from independent contractors than the employee. There's a lot of tax benefits. They have now their own business. They get to write off all these things that they wouldn't have as an employee. So it's a win-win. And we can definitely go into details on another talk about it. So I found hiring independent contractors and breaking it up more of a productivity, because if it's a quieter month, you don't want the pressure as an owner to say, oh my gosh, we had 3 transfers I didn't expect. We pay insurance. I'm paid by a certain amount of codes versus a cash rate. And now you're feeling the pressure versus they're like, I'm getting my salary. What projects do you want me to do on the side right now? There's not as much work to do. And that encourages them to say, well, I'm going to go market. I want more clients, or it's plenty busy, Leslie. Like, if you're paying based on productivity, you don't know with the birth world, the highs, the lows. You could have 3 births in a short amount of time. So it gives you an incentive of those waves that's along with the birth world.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now I have a question that is a little bit more specific. This one came in through Instagram, and I think this will be helpful for people because there's probably a lot of women in this sort of situation right now, and maybe you can give some advice to all of them out there. So this woman said she is in her final phase of her CPM, so she's doing primaries with a midwife that she has been apprenticing with. Yes, I know. Congratulations to her. And her preceptor has decided that she would like to hire her on as a working midwife with her to join the practice once she's finished. So the midwife has been a solo practice midwife for 6 years. Their practice is pretty busy. They take 4 to 7 clients a month. And I'm giving you all the details so you can kind of maybe get a little bit more specific with the answer to these questions. 4 to 7 clients per month. They charge $4,250 per client as a global fee. The student is very excited. She likes the preceptor. They get along very well. But she's worried about a little bit of a bumpy transition because the midwife has already been working alone for 6 years, and also is afraid that the midwife might lowball her because she's pretty tight with money. So she says she doesn't know where to start and she doesn't know what she's worth. The midwife that wants to hire her has asked the student to start thinking about time, if she wants to work full-time or part-time, and what her compensation requirements should be or would be whenever she works for her. And so, we can all understand that as a new practitioner, not knowing where to begin and what we're worth, especially having been a student for so long, it's hard.
Well, that question is a great question. I think it's hard on both directions, just as being the owner of a private practice and presenting, putting a job offer out there, considering transitioning from solo to partnership, or the other direction. It's never been done before with this practice, and this midwife knew she likes the practice. She's like, okay, is this a fair offer? What do I negotiate? How do you, I don't think it's so much giving me the details of the fee schedule, because I don't know their overhead. I don't know this specific midwife, what she can do, what her profit margins are, income expenses. I don't know if they have malpractice, what supplies they do, what radius they serve. Like, there's so many variables with the business.
They can take insurance.
But get back to the basics. When I stress, negotiating is a very, very powerful tool. Take lots of courses on negotiating, because you can get so creative, create a win-win with, if you like this partnership and you want it to be successful, you have to, when you're presenting something as a new graduate, stress your positives, stress your worth to the value of the business, and get creative. If you ask for a crazy high number, but she can't make that as a business happen, you're not going to get it. But if you can say, I would love to sit with you and look at your business numbers. I'll sign a confidentiality agreement. I won't say anything to anybody else, but I would love to have an idea where, okay, maybe we need a little more ladies, or we can add these other services that are a little more profitable per time, like adding some GYN. Maybe you don't want to increase the numbers that, hey, we're two midwives, we won't want to increase our call time, but we would love to make a little money where we can both be. GYN is a great service to add to an established strictly OB practice. But I just stress to new graduates and to practice owners, think of it creatively, open and honest, because you're going to blend and morph. It is hard having a new person part of your practice when you've never done it before. Being honest, like, I'm the business owner, I'm going to make mistakes. I've never had a partner, I've never hired anybody, I've had students before, but let's have meetings regularly. Let's get together. That communication is so important. So like the first 3 months, we're going to get together every week and we're going to talk about how this is going, the goods and the bads. Maybe make it not a long-term permanent contract, like a probationary period. This is what we want our tentative terms to look like. I'm going to, as a new student, invest in marketing. I'm going to network like crazy. I am going to, if we're trying to promote, that's why it's so important to have a joint mission together, because if the owner is saying, well, I want to cut down, I want to retire, and this new grad is excited, is like, I want more clients, you're not going to be on the same page. So you have to get back to the basics of what is both of your mission plans? Is it, and being honest as a student, it's not offensive to say, I want to make good money. It's don't feel guilty. If your ultimate goal is, I just want to pay my bills and I love the passion and vision of what we're doing, that's okay. Just, you have to be honest. Yeah. If it's more financial support and you have goals of where you want to be in 5-10 years, you just have a conversation and you have to make a business model that supports that structure.
Yes. Yeah. So important. All of that, being honest about what it is that you actually need, on both parts, you know, and with open communication constantly and sharing a mission. Yeah. That's all really important stuff. And then, like you said, there is so much that you still don't know about this person, just like all across the whole entire country. The rules and regulations are different and the requirements are different. And so that's another reason to hire somebody like you, is because, you know, we can get individualized about what it is what we need. When if you're watching YouTube videos and that kind of thing, there might not be somebody talking about your own specific situation. Yeah, and that is so important. Just the things that you said, honest communication, being honest about what it is that both of you are after, being honest about what it is that both of you need in the situation, and then just direct communication about it on a regular basis. All those things are so important for sustainability. And I think it's, you know, another reason, because you talked about how you, even when you know how many clients they have, how many midwives there are, how much they're charging, there's still so many questions that we don't know, because it's different everywhere across the whole entire country for birth centers and for home birth midwives. The rules and regulations are different. The insurance requirements are different. And so you can do a lot of research online, looking at YouTube and, you know, listening to audiobooks, but having someone like you to talk to about your individual situation and kind of helping you navigate what it's like in your area with your rules.
Your services you're being offered, doing cash versus an insurance makes a very different approach how your structure is. So customizing, these are just suggestions for generalized tapping, getting into it, but you always have to customize. Get a good business mentor in your area. Talk to midwives that are doing a similar style to what you want to do. I wouldn't recommend talking to the midwife that's burning at both ends and barely making things meet, because their business structure is probably not sustainable. But I mean, it's hard to negotiate as a new graduate or a student or a potential new hire. If they want to get creative in a job offer for you, they have to, as a business owner, be transparent of their numbers and the backdrops. You can't negotiate a win-win if you don't have you don't understand. You may put a proposal that's totally irrelevant to their business plan and their business structure. So you have to put your guard down as a business owner if you want to get creative. Like, if you know your numbers and your profit range, your salary range, and your benefits, what you're going to offer, that's totally different. But if you want to creatively approach adding a new partner and you've never done it before, you're going to have to put your guard down on the business side and sign a confidentiality agreement and talk honestly with that student or new hire. You're going to make a better relationship, and you're going to make a better win-win for each other.
Yes. And I also love what you said a while ago about not reinventing the wheel. Like, I think, there are midwives out there who are doing it successfully. And I love trying to sort of come together and help each other and give each other resources so that it doesn't take as long for the new midwives to start. They have other people that they can see doing it successfully and follow in their footsteps, to, not have to keep on making all the same mistakes.
Well, wholeheartedly, that was the point of creating Midwifery Business Consultation. There are so many products, there's templates, there's policies, procedures, fee schedules, insurance contracts, financial agreements on this website. So you don't have to spend the time figuring out, do I need this? Do I need that? What's reasonable? And then you customize it to your area. Having these courses and having these products will save you so much time doing the research and seeing what makes the most sense. I started a Facebook group, Let's Talk Midwifery Be Business, because I wanted an opportunity for people to pick the brain of each other nationwide, internationally, and be able to start, at least we can pass tools to each other. But there's a lot of great resources out there if you know the right places to look.
Yes, I love that. Yep, we need to work together for sure. Okay, next question is about compensation. This woman said she feels like ever since she's been in the birth world that she has not seen prices change very much. We need to be justly compensated. And I think there's a lot of places where midwives are working too hard for not enough pay. Those are my words, not hers, but I think that's what she was getting at as well. And so her question is, what are your suggestions for how best to increase prices to make it more of a just compensation for the work that we do?
Yeah, it's so difficult. If you're doing cash versus insurance reimbursement, if you're doing insurance, you just get what you get if you become in network with them. So a lot of midwives will choose to be out of network or cash direction, and you have more wiggle room of your fee schedule and your overhead. Each practice is going to have a very different overhead. If every midwife in your community is $3,000 for a birth, that shows me, one, they don't have much business sense, but that there's that details of everybody's overhead's going to be different. A nurse midwife, a direct entry, a CPM, some are going to malpractice, some are going to have different marketing campaigns, some are going to have different overhead expenses, the supplies that they need, what the volume they serve, are they doing more GYN versus OB? It's very difficult. Each practice should have a specific fee schedule that's very different, and you're going to get women that either find the value in what your unique services are, or they're not. I've seen ranges where women, they're charging $1,500 for entire maternity care all the way up to $5,000. So there's a wide range I've seen all over the country. And in the cost of living, I mean, in California, Boston, Massachusetts, all these places that have high cost of living, you're going to have different overhead expenses than somebody that's rural out in the country, the Midwest. If you serve more of an Amish community, you can tend to have a lower overhead because it's cash, it's simple, you're not on payment plans. Like your administration cost is going to be very different than somebody that has to bill insurance and has payment plans for everybody. You have to have somebody on staff, you're paying part of your overhead to keep track of all those things. So I really stress that typical nationwide around 3,000 to 4,000 is just to even get break even and get a slightly different salary if you're doing 4 to 7 births a month based on typical overhead. So don't feel guilty if everybody is doing 3,000 in your area and you're like, but my numbers say I should be 4. Stress in your marketing campaigns why you're different, why you're unique. If you show the value to families, okay, the midwife next door does 3,000, but she sees 15 ladies and I'm seeing 4. Now you can show the benefits of having more personalized care. Maybe your background, you can do a little more services. I know as a nurse midwife in our state, I can offer a little more things than a certified professional midwife is. They have to tandem care with a physician and go to a doctor's office to get some ultrasounds testing and certain things. So you just have to do your numbers. You have to know what you're worth, what your overhead, and be honest, transparent. I don't make it the first thing to say, what is your competitors charging? And then just charge what they are, because that doesn't make good business sense. You don't know if you're really going to make a profit or not. So I stress to people, look at your business plan, look at your overhead costs, make your fee schedule based on your specific practice's needs, not what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, because you're not those other midwives, you're you. All right, good question. And then, so that's all of the ones that I got from my call for questions. And so I thought maybe we could just end with maybe your number one piece of advice for a midwife thinking about starting out on her own. She could be a new midwife. She could be a midwife that's, transitioning from a larger practice to starting a business of her own. What do you think are kind of the most important things, or the first thing to do to get started?
So the thing because I talk to a lot of initial consults and they're so overwhelmed. They're so like, I've got all these ideas bouncing around my head and I don't even know where to start. And they start shutting down because they're so overwhelmed. So my best advice to give people starting out is make down your goals. Make a vision board, your ultimate goals. Where do you want to be? Following your sole purpose, your mission. Pretend there's no variables and there's no world we live in of healthcare and burnout and stressors and business logic. Make that a goal for 10 years from now, and then say every, like a 5-year goal, a 3-year goal, a 1 year, a 6-month, a 3-month. It gets it broken down. If you want to have a birth center franchise that's kicking butt around the country, you're not going to get that in a year. It's not realistic. So I stress to people, you can have any mission, dream. There's no barrier. The only barrier we have is our mind to create things. You get creative, you learn your resources, your tools, you just break things down. Like most of us are going to be busy finishing school, having a side income, something to help while their dreams are happening. And that's okay. But time management, understanding you're going to work hard for a little while. It's the long-term investment. This isn't something instant gratification that our society is so used to. If you're owning your own practice, it's a huge shift. When you work for somebody, 2 weeks later, you get your paycheck. When you shift to the mindset of being a business owner, you could work for a year to 2 years and not see a dime from that business, depending on the structure and the plan. But if you are seeing backdrop momentum and you are using every little ounce you make to reinvest back in your business, this is called an investment. Just like when people are talking about stocks and retirement and buying things that are long-term investments, a business is a long-term investment. So I always stress, what's your mindset? If you are one that's like, well, I'm going to be covering my salary I had in my past life or my goal in 3 months, you either have to be taken over for somebody, have an established practice. We talk about realistic expectations. And that just because you didn't make what you wanted in a year does not mean your business isn't a success. Don't get discouraged. Look at teaching you different ways to look objectively at your business and the growth and success it has, not just by what's coming into your pocket in the beginning.
Yes, I love that. I love thinking about what your ultimate goal is. And they are, like you said, it's allowed to be a big goal. It's allowed to be a big goal because what we do is a big deal.
Well, and we live in the United States, and we live in a time with, I mean, I'm a positive person. I've gotten a lot better at that. It makes a huge difference if you can shift your mindset to see the potential and creativity. So having the pandemic, living in the United States, we have so much more opportunities compared to other midwives internationally to make our dreams a reality. And so I stress to people, I try to be positive and encouraging. Yes, we've got these hurdles to get over, but compared to other midwives and barriers at play, we live in an amazing opportunity of so many changes happening for the good for midwives and women. So.
Yes, and it's so much easier to keep on working if you know what it is that you're working towards.
Yeah.
If you can see that goal in front of you, and then you can see, like you said, you reach your 3-month goal, and you can see that little by little you're getting closer to what it is that you're working towards. And it makes a huge difference if you're clear about that ultimate goal.
Yeah, I think especially as a student or transitioning to a home birth practice, it may take you 6 months to a year to plan the business. I stress, I've met so many practices where they've been open for 4 years, but they're still in the planning beginning stages. Like there's so much planning they should have done before it started. Now they've made themselves so much more work because they didn't figure those things out before they get going. I stress so much that 6 months to a year planning before you start your business is vital. So vital to answer all these questions, to have the time to investigate some of these things versus now you're overwhelmed with clients and you decided you wanted to do insurance, but you haven't credentialed yet. So now you're giving all this free care for nothing versus you could have just worked on that in the beginning. So it's interesting. Like we want to get our feet right into the care, but when you're running a business, you have to do the business planning and the backdrops.
Yeah. Yep. That's all really wonderful advice. All of it has been. Thank you so much. I think this is going to be a huge benefit to a lot of midwives out there. So do you have any closing thoughts? Or
I just stress, I do 30-minute consultations complimentary at this point. I have a little bit of wiggle room in my schedule that I want to help just pick people's brains. They can email me if there's simple questions. I can send maybe a resource. That group blog, Let's Talk Midwifery Business. The website has tons of products, blogs, resource lists. So just getting yourself into the business side and just learning every day. Have a goal. I'm going to learn about this today. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to work on my marketing campaign, like just always making progress every day, even if it's something small.
Wonderful. So can you maybe just tell people where to find you if they want one of those 30-minute consultations, or if they want to email you, how the best way to get in contact with you is?
Yep. So Midwifery Business Consultation. So it's exactly midwiferybusinessconsultation.com. And then right on the front page, it says contact us, and it'll send an email right to me. And most of the time it's about 24, 48 hours. I know in the summer it's a little bit busier doing the garden and stuff, but yes, please just send me some contact information. Facebook, you can message our page. We have a page with great resources. So there's a lot of ways you can get in contact. You can Google search Midwifery Business Consultation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and sharing with us today. And
thank you.
Yeah, let's do this again soon.
Okay, I'm very excited. Thank you.